Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our special Fall Ohigan seminar. We will begin with a short service, starting with the Sutra chanting Jusege, which is on page 72 in the red service book, or page 23 in the brown service book.
合唱。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。
Once again, on behalf of the Buddhist Temple, Hongwanji Buddhist Temple, and our Buddhist Education Committee, I'd like to welcome you to our special Fall Ohigan service. We are fortunate to have a guest speaker who came all the way from across the Pacific to join us this morning, and our own Reverend Kory Quon will now make an introduction.
Good morning, everyone. Just like Judy said, thank you for coming to this Fall Ohigan seminar. We're very fortunate to, have this minister here today. I met him after I graduated IVF, right? We kind of like missed each other. I ended and he began. But if you're on Facebook or any multimedia platform, he's all over it, right on? I mean, there's pictures of a sense that he's busy all the time. So he's a really great minister over at his temple. So let me give you his bio so that you know a little bit more about him. Reverend Blayne Higa is the resident minister of the Kona Hongwanji Buddhist Temple on the Big Island of Hawaii. He holds a Master's of Divinity from the Institute of Buddhist Studies in Berkeley, California, with a focus on Shin Buddhist ministry and chaplaincy. He has been a contributor to Tricycle, Lion's Roar, and Buddha Dharma, and is a frequent speaker and seminar leader at Buddhist communities in Hawaii and around the nation. Reverend Blayne received Tokudo ordination and Kyoshi certification from the Jodo Shinshu Hongwanji Ha in Kyoto, Japan. He is the chair of the Committee on Social Concerns and Ministerial Training Committee for the Kona Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii. He was also a co-planner for the 2022 Future of American Buddhism Conference. Prior to entering ministry, he had careers in state government and the nonprofit sector for over 17 years. He holds a Master's of Public Administration and a certificate in Urban and Regional Planning from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. He received a BA from Willamette University in Salem, Oregon. Committed to civic engagement, Reverend Blayne serves on the boards of the American Civil Liberties Union of Hawaii and Vibrant Hawaii. He is also a member of the advisory board of the Interfaith Alliance of Hawaii. You can learn more about his works if you like at www.blaynehiga.com. But as you can see, he's really a very active minister. He gets out there. He's got lots of energy, and again, we're very fortunate to have him here at our temple, the Venice Hongwanji Buddhist Temple. So, Reverend Blayne, thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing the Dharma with us today. Thank you. Reverend Blayne Higa.
Thank you very much for your warm welcome, everybody. Again, good morning, and thank you to Reverend Quon for inviting me to share with you today. I'm truly grateful for this time together as we explore and deepen our understanding of the Buddha's teaching. So much of what we've learned over the past several years has been about the importance of community to our lives. So I wanted to share a little bit about my own life and how it's been nurtured and enriched by Sangha. Shakyamuni Buddha understood that life is hard and that the way would be difficult. That is why there are three treasures in Buddhism: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, in which we take refuge. It is in this unity of these three where we discover a complete path for our whole lives. In the teacher, we have the one who shows us the way in this life. In the teachings, we have the way of understanding and love. And within the community, we have the true place of practice, our lives, and our relationships with each other. In the passage for the teaching of the Buddha, it says, we speak of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha as though they are three different things, but they are actually really only one. The Buddha is manifested in the Dharma and is realized by the Sangha. Therefore, to believe in the Dharma and to cherish Sangha is to have faith in the Buddha. And to have faith in the Buddha means to believe in the Dharma and to cherish the Sangha. This is the starting point for understanding the importance of community to our spiritual lives as Buddhists. So let me begin with the story of how I got here. First there was the plane, but so did you know that I actually didn't grow up being a Shin Buddhist? So my mom's family was Shingon, and my dad's family is Jōjōshu. And so, however, I had many friends who were members of the Hilo Hongwanji, so I was born and raised in Hilo on the big island of Hawaii. And so I was a little bit familiar with Jōjō Shinshu, and I went to some of the youth camps and activities and stuff with my friends, but I didn't know much else. I just knew, like most of us grew up, well, we're Buddhists, but what does that really mean? Right? And so I was born and raised in a small town of Hilo, the big island, and after graduating from high school, I attended college at Blayne University in Oregon. And eventually, through the unfolding of the Dharma in my life and numerous causal conditions, I made my way back home to the Big Island after so many years. Honestly, I never thought I'd be ever back living on the Big Island again, but life has an interesting way of unfolding in our lives, right? That sometimes we come full circle, right, to where we began from. And so I feel so fortunate to be able to be a minister on the Big Island, serving the community, not necessarily the community that I grew up with, but the community that I'm familiar with and that has nurtured me to be who I am today. And so now that you know where I come from, let me tell you about my names. So Blayne was given to me by my mom, and I'm told that she saw the name in the newspaper one day, but changed the I to a Y. And my middle name of Mahopo is also my dad's middle name. And so at some point in our lives, we all discover a spiritual longing that needs to be explored. We begin to ask the big questions of meaning and purpose of life. Oftentimes, these questions arise from the ordinary, everyday transitions that upend our routine and challenge our assumptions. It is these moments that start us on the journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening. In 1997, as a young 20-something college graduate, I had moved home to Hawaii from the mainland and was sharing a 2-bedroom apartment in Honolulu with a couple of friends. We were living the plot of a 90s movie, right, struggling to our way to make it in the world, yet enjoying the ride. Besides applying for jobs, and which I was overqualified for because I had a college degree, and unqualified for because I didn't have any work experience, I began exploring my spiritual life in earnest. My life as a spiritual seeker actually began a few years earlier as a freshman in college when I was asked, so what does it mean to be a Buddhist? How many of you got that question before? So struggling to stammer out an answer or an intelligent response, something that was coherent, made me realize I was spiritually unprepared to answer that question for myself. Growing up in a predominantly Asian and Buddhist community in Hawaii, I had taken for granted my cultural and religious upbringing, which was not the norm in my new home of Salem, Oregon. While I didn't fully understand what it meant to be Buddhist, I was determined to learn so I would be better prepared to answer that question in the future. I began reading everything I could find in English and slowly began making connections between the Buddha's teachings and the values with which I was raised. Many of the books I found were about Shin Buddhism, from Titus Ono and Alfred Bloom and other great American Shin Buddhist writers. And I found comfort in the promise of Amida Buddha's universal embrace. But yet I had so many questions. How could boundless compassion truly exist? How could I personally experience the working of the vow? What does it mean to be a fellow traveler? However, there's a difference between knowing something with your head and knowing something with your heart. Book learning is essential and necessary, but to truly understand, one has to live the Dharma. And that, what I lacked was a community of practice, a Sangha. I would have to wait several years to find such a community. And so through the working of cosmic conditions, my apartment in Honolulu was just a short walk away from the Kona Hongwanji, right in the heart of Honolulu, right below the University of Hawaii, at Manoa. So one Sunday, I decided to attend service and was immediately greeted by the late Rose Nakamura, who was a longtime member of Hongwanji. And so the warm and sincere welcome I received was followed by an instant invitation to volunteer for Project Dharma, which was founded at Hongwanji, which is an interfaith elderly caregivers program founded by Rose and the late Shimeji Kanazawa. The funny story about this program, right, so it's been in existence for over 30 years now, but the genesis for this program was these two devout Droshin women who were in the kitchen, the temple kitchen one day, making something and talking about how do we put our values into action? How do we live our values and serve our community? And that was how Project Dharma was born. And so they were looking for someone to help take an elderly woman grocery shopping, since she lived alone and didn't drive. As I learned more about the project and the spirit of Dana, or selfless giving, I was astounded by this beautiful example of faith in action. This was a community of fellow travelers who struggled together and who encouraged each other to practice the way, to live the way. They were living what Shakyamuni Buddha taught about how good friendship is the entirety of the spiritual life, the whole path. They were truly living the Dharma. In describing the importance of good spiritual friendships, Buddhist scholar Bhikkhu Bodhi shares, the Buddha placed special emphasis on one's choice of friends, which he saw as having a profound influence on one's individual development, as well as on the creation of a harmonious and ethically upright community. Good friendship is essential not only because it benefits us in times of trouble, satisfies our social instincts, and enlarges our sphere of concern from the self to the others. It is critical because good friendships plant in us the sense of discretion, the ability to distinguish between good and bad, right and wrong, and to choose the honorable over the expedient. We often think of the three treasures as separate things. However, they are really one because the Buddha is manifested in the Dharma and is realized by the Sangha. A true understanding of the Buddha's path is only complete when there is a unity of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha together. So think about the good spiritual friends and friendships that you have within your temple, within your Sangha. How do you encounter the living Dharma, the living Nembutsu, in the lives of these fellow travelers? This is what makes our community so special, and our friendships so meaningful. This is why Sangha is so important. It is within Sangha where I found a community that saw me. and that affirmed me and which nurtured me. Because our community is grounded in the Dharma, we live and act inspired by wisdom and compassion. This is why Hawaii Kyodan issued statements on protecting reproductive freedom and against gun violence, calling for enactment of sensible gun control policies. It is also why back in 2010, our governing body, our Legislative Assembly, our Gisekai, adopted a resolution supporting the rights of same-gender couples, which led to our full support for marriage equality, and further the protections for LGBTQIA+ individuals. So the Dharma, right, offers us wisdom for living in our troubled world, living with all the challenges that we're facing each and every day. Sangha is a refuge where we can grow in the teachings together and encounter Amida's compassionate embrace. I'm a minister today because of how I experienced Amida's vow of compassion embodied within Sangha. Experiencing the living Dharma within a community of fellow travelers continues to transform my life and cultivates the conditions for a life of awakening. Inasmuch as I choose a community to belong to, that community also chose me, right? It continues to choose me. And while I also choose Amida, I've learned over time that Amida has always been choosing me. 25 years later, I still don't know if I can answer the question of what it means to be a Buddhist, other than to say, in looking for the Dharma, I found Sangha. Maybe that's all we truly need to know. So I look forward to exploring the power of Sangha with you today. So please join me in Gassho to recite the Nenbutsu, the Buddha's honored name, in gratitude, joy, and awareness for the enlightenment and the life to come. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Namo. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Reverend Higa, for your message. Now we will go downstairs to the social hall. Reverend Higa has a presentation that he'd like to share with us. Before that, we'll take a 5 to 10 minute break, and please feel free to relax for a little while before we get started. Thank you.
Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
So please join me in Gassho. Let's recite the Nenbutsu together. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Again, good morning, everybody. Such a nice, really working now, yes. So, but again, thank you so much for your warm welcome and having me here, and it's wonderful to share this time with you. And so, as I introduced in my Dharma message upstairs, we'll be talking about this idea of Sangha and the importance of community to our spiritual lives as Buddhists. And so, right, so like I mentioned, my introduction to Sangha. So this is a picture of Rose Nakamura, and actually this was taken in the Project Dana house, or the office that they shared to run the activities of this organization. And so, yeah, a lot of fond memories in the house. I heard they recently actually sold the house actually. After so many years. And so the writer, Buddhist-inspired writer Bell Hooks, mentions, and definitions are vital starting points for the imagination. What we cannot imagine cannot come into being.
A good definition marks our starting point and lets us know where we want to end up. So Sangha. Sangha is an intentional, values-based community, a community of care, a community of good spiritual friends, a community of imperfect fellow travelers, and Sangha is faith in action. And so, like I referenced in my message, right, how we take refuge in the Sangha. Right, we speak of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha as though they're three different things, but they are really one. Buddha is manifested in his Dharma and is realized by the Sangha. Therefore, to believe in the Dharma, to cherish Sangha, is to have faith in the Buddha. And to have faith in the Buddha means to believe in the Dharma and to cherish the Sangha. So a values-based community. Also from the teaching of the Buddha, a true community has faith and wisdom that illuminate it. It is a place where people know and trust one another and where there is social harmony. In fact, harmony is the life and real meaning of a true community or organization. So a true organization. So also from the teaching of the Buddha. Of organizations, there are three kinds. First, there are those that are organized on the basis of power, wealth, or authority of great leaders. Second, there are those that are organized because of its conveniences to the members, which will continue to exist as long as the members satisfy their conveniences and do not quarrel. Sounds like a country club. Third, there are those that are organized with some good teaching at its center and harmony as its very life. Of course, the third or the last of these is the only true organization, for in it, the members live in one spirit from which the unity of spirit and various kinds of virtue will arise. In such an organization, there will prevail harmony, satisfaction, and happiness. Right, and this is kind of the starting point of a true Sangha, right, of what we aspire to be as fellow travelers along this path of Nembutsu together. So a community of care. So these are some pictures of my temple and my temple members. And so during the height of the pandemic, or when the pandemic first began in the spring of 2020, like the rest of us, right, the world shut down, and but my members sprang into action, right? So one thing that we did was we created a Sangha phone tree kind of list, right, and the Sangha phone ministry program. And so we split up our entire list, and we began calling. Had a team of volunteers, and began calling each member, like every few weeks. Just to check in, how are you doing? Especially those of our members who are homebound and elderly, right? And did not have any contact with the outside world, right? And so in that, right, we extended care, right, of the Sangha to people, right? Not just people coming to the temple, but going to people, right? But also, we realized how outdated our information was, yeah, and how common that is in our organizations, right? Oh, this line is dead. This line is, everyone switched over to cell phones, right? And all this, right? So, so it was a good opportunity for us to be able to update our membership information, right? Which then led us to actually send out, hard copies of like forms. Please update your information with us. We've been trying to reach you, that like that. So, but another project, as you can see here, so, we had worked with a local distributor, a food distributor, and so we were able to purchase some bread and some frozen chicken and some other things that, and some eggs and things like that. And so we created little food boxes for our members. And so when we began this project, we didn't realize. So when we called, we asked, we'd like a box of food. This is free. This is just a service to our members who, really shouldn't be going to the supermarket at the height of the pandemic, right? And so just to give them something. And so because of this program, the outpouring of support for this, right? So we gathered with some volunteers together and we packed up these boxes, and then our members baked hundreds of cookies, hundreds of cakes, and people brought fruits and vegetables from their gardens, their home gardens, and then we supplemented each box with all that dana from our members, right? And so this really was a beautiful way of caring for Sangha, of being Sangha together and redefining what Sangha is in the pandemic, right? So, so we did this food giveaway about maybe 5 times during that first year and a half of the pandemic or so. Right, so Sangha is practice, right? In Jodo Shinshu, right, our everyday ordinary lives is our dojo, is our place of practice, right? We don't have to be in the mountains meditating or practicing austere things, but we live each day, right? Grounded in our lives and as our true place of practice. And so Thich Nhat Hanh says, the Buddha said that the water in the 4 oceans has only one taste, the taste of salt, just as his teachings only has one taste, the taste of liberation. Therefore, the elements of Sangha are the taste of life, the taste of liberation, and we have to practice in order to become the salt. When we say, I take refuge in the Sangha, it is not a statement, it is a practice. And so, Sangha is a community of good spiritual friends. The Buddha placed special emphasis on one's choice of friends, as Bhikkhu Bodhi says, right? And who we are, right? And how we develop. I mean, we know this, right? That it is influenced by those we associate with, right? And so within Sangha, right, within a community of practice, right, we are all struggling together, we're all practicing together, we are encouraging each other along this path of life that we're living, right? And so we also, right, because in Buddhism too, we don't have like these commandments, or we don't have these strict rules, right, that we have to uphold and to live by, right? That each of us holds each other accountable based on these values, these guidelines that inspire us to act compassionately, inspire us to act with wisdom, right? What an amazing way to live, right, when you think about it, right? That we're not beholden to, right, or confined by a box, right? But we are guided and supported in acting by the foundation of these values, right? That we can, from this foundation, we can grow. We can nurture each other, right? To grow in various ways. And so the whole of the path. So from one of the early teachings of the Buddha, from the Nikaya, Venerable Ananda, one of Shakyamuni Buddha's disciples, approached the Blessed One and paid homage to him, sat down to one side and said, Bhante, this is half of the spiritual life, that is good friendship, good companionship, and good comradeship. Not so, Ananda, not so. This is the entire spiritual life, Ananda, that is good friendship, good companionship, good comradeship. When a monk has a good friend, a good companion, a good comrade, it is to be expected that he will develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. So again, the importance of Sangha, right, in the 3 treasures. Right, a community of friends. A Sangha is a community of friends practicing the Dharma together in order to bring about and to maintain awareness. The essence of a Sangha is awareness, understanding, acceptance, harmony, and love from Thich Nhat Hanh. And so what are the qualities of good spiritual friendships? Young man, there are these 4 kinds of kind-hearted friends: the friend who is helpful, the friend who shares one's happiness and suffering, the friend who points out what is good, and the friend who is sympathetic. In the 4 cases, a helpful friend can be understood. He protects you when you are heedless. He looks after your property when you are heedless. He is a refuge when you are frightened, and when some need arises, he gives you twice the wealth required. In 4 cases, a friend who shares one's happiness and suffering can be understood. He reveals his secrets to you. He guards your own secrets. He does not abandon you when you are in trouble, and he would even sacrifice his life for your sake. In 4 cases, a friend who points out what is good can be understood. He restrains you from evil. He enjoins you in the good. He informs you of what you have not heard, and he points out to you the path to heaven. In 4 cases, a sympathetic friend can be understood. He does not rejoice in your misfortune. He rejoices in your good fortune. He stops those who speak dispraise of you, and he commends those who speak praise of you. So how many have friends who tell it like it is, right? We all need friends who will be that mirror for us, right? To tell us, wow, that was really stupid. Or some other words, yeah? Right, but that's the truth of our lives, yeah? We're good spiritual friends, right? Friends who encourage us, friends who look out for us, friends who, right, guide us on this path that we are traveling together. Right, because, without friends, right, life is such a lonely place, right? That's why there is Sangha. That's why there is community, right? Because the way is hard, right? In the homages, right? Hard is it to go into human life. Now we're living it. Difficult it is to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear them, right? If we do not gain emancipation in this present life, when will we ever, right? So, the Buddha, right, or Amida Buddha, right, is also this good friend to us, right? Helping us to see ourselves as we truly are, right? Picking us up when we are down, embracing us when we are sad, right? And making us see, oh, really? You can really do that? Right? But in that process of self-reflection, in that process of awakening to ourselves, right? That's the dynamic working of Namo Amida Butsu in our lives, right? Always awakening us up to our true selves. And so within a community of practice, what is a good friendship? Here, in whatever village or town a clansman lives, he associates with householders or their sons, whether young and mature virtue, or old and mature virtue, who are accomplished in faith, virtuous behavior, generosity, and wisdom. He converses with them and engages in discussions with them. Insofar as they are accomplished in faith, he emulates them with respect to their faith. Insofar as they are accomplished in virtuous behavior, he emulates them with respect to their virtuous behavior. Insofar as they are accomplished in generosity, he emulates them with respect to their generosity. Insofar as they are accomplished in wisdom, he emulates them with respect to their wisdom. This is called good friendship. A few months ago, I attended a minister's workshop in Hawaii, and one of our speakers had talked about this idea of being a good ancestor, right? And how, we are in Buddhism, right? We always talk about this idea of okage samade, right? That we talk about this real deep appreciation, this profound appreciation for all those causes and conditions that have enabled us to be who we are, right? our loved ones, our ancestors, our good spiritual friends. And so when we hold memorial services, when we hold these celebrations of life, we are reflecting on how these good ancestors have influenced our lives, right? And we pause our busy lives. We take a moment to reflect on those causes and conditions that enable us to be who we are, right here, right now. That's to be a good ancestor, right? To reflect on that, right? On our good ancestors. But yet, right, in these services, in these moments, right, we are also reflecting on how do we become good ancestors too, right? Each moment of each day, we are creating the causes and conditions for future generations, right? What we do matters, right? Everything, as we learn in the Golden Chain, is interconnected, right? Everything has a deep and profound influence with other things in the world, right? So what we do matters, right? So just like in our climate crisis, right? Our personal actions do matter in small and big ways, right? And so bringing it back to Shinshu and in our Shinshu tradition. So this is Renyo showing, right? So Renyo sought to instill the realization that all beings, whether resident priests, leaders of practice halls, or followers, are children of the Buddha and fellow believers and practicers, Onnobo Onno-gyo. He endeavored to create an open religious organization based on the standpoint that all persons in the Shin Buddhist tradition are followers of Master Shinran. And this is from Jitsu and Kakehashi sensei. So Sangha is community. Between the 13th and 15th centuries, the Shinshu blossomed from an obscure brand of Pure Land adherents into one of the largest and most powerful schools in Buddhism in Japan. Its success resulted from a variety of factors, both external and internal. First of all, the Shinshu gained a foothold among the lower classes, right, in the countryside. Right? The teachings were meant for those of us who are incapable of practicing, of learning, of anybody who, wanted to attain awakening, but were denied access to that, right? Through virtue of education, through virtue of class, through virtue of other distinctions, which Shinran and Honen and that Pure Land tradition deconstructed, right? As this rural population began to organize into autonomous villages, Shinshu congregation emerged as rallying points for village societies, since they provided a meeting place for communities, a reason for assembling, and a religious network linking villages to one another. Right, so the earliest Shinshu communities, we had no grand temples, right? But we had people's houses where we threw up the name of Amida Buddha, had services together, talked to each other, sat and shared our lives with each other, right? That's where the power of community began in Shinshu, right? In people's living rooms. So the Shin Dojo. The dojo, or meeting place, emerged as the basic unit of religious organization in the Shinshu, or according to James Dobbins. But, as we all know, we live in imperfect communities, because we ourselves are imperfect. So, according to Renyo, right, the faults of others are easy to see, but our faults are difficult to recognize. If one sees that he has a fault, he must realize that the fault must be very grave indeed for him to recognize it himself. Thus, he must take steps to correct his fault. Because it is difficult for us to see many of our faults, we should listen to the advice of others. Again, bringing it back to those truth teller friends, right, who tell us, hey, maybe that's not the best thing to do. Or, knock us on our head, Snap out of it. And so, right, we take refuge together. Right? While we say, I go to the Buddha for guidance, I go to the Dharma for guidance, I go to the Sangha for guidance, it really is we, right? Go to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha for guidance. Right? We take refuge together. So every member of the Sangha has his or her weaknesses and strengths, and you have to recognize them in order to make good use of the positive elements for the sake of the whole Sangha. You also have to recognize the negative elements so that you and the whole Sangha can help embrace them. You don't leave that negative element to the person alone, because he may not be able to hold and transform it by himself. Right, so as community, we struggle together. Right, we correct our missteps together. Right, we hold each other accountable together. Right, we celebrate together. Right, we share in this life together. So mutual support. You don't need a perfect Sangha. A family or community does not have to be perfect in order to be helpful. In fact, the Sangha at the time of the Buddha was not perfect, but it was enough for people to take refuge in. Because in the Sangha, there were people who had enough compassion, solidity, and insight to embrace others who did not have as much compassion, solidity, and insight. In Hawaii recently, we've been going through some challenging times with the most recent fires in Lahaina that destroyed our temple there and other temples and the whole community of Lahaina, Maui. And what we've realized right through this past almost maybe 6 weeks or so is how important the power of community is, right? To come together in times of distress and times of trouble, right? To help each other in big and small ways, especially the small ways, right? That means so much to those who are suffering and in distress. Right? That each of us, right, in our own way, can be a light for others in dark times, in dark places. And that's the power of Sangha. That's the power of community. In Hawaii, we talk about the aloha spirit. That's the aloha spirit, to be able to rise above our challenges, to be able to care for each other in a way that is real and human, even if it's as simple as holding the hand of someone without saying a word. You are not alone. I am not alone. Right? And within Namo Amida Butsu, we are never alone. And so being, right, Bongo together, being a foolish being together, being a human together. If we lived in a Sangha where everyone was perfect, how many of you think you're perfect? Everyone was a Bodhisattva or Buddha. That would be very difficult for us. Weakness in the other person is very important, and weakness in ourselves is also very important. Anger is in us. Jealousy is in us. Arrogance is in us. These kinds of things are very human. This is thanks to the presence of weakness in you and weakness in a brother or sister that you learn how to practice. To practice is to have an opportunity to transform. So it is through our shortcomings that we learn to practice. Right? It is through our limitations, right? Through our inability to attain awakening with our own power, with just ourselves, that Shiran discovered, right? That is the working of the Mida working in our life, to awaken us to that which is true and real and timeless. Right, so Buddhism is a path of awakening, a path of transformation, a path of change, right? What an amazing way to live, right? With the potential and the possibility of never being stuck where we are at. right? Even though we think at times we are stuck, we cannot see anything beyond what we can see, that there is always an opportunity for transformation and change, right? That there is always this potential for us to become more fully human, more our true selves, right? And so becoming our true selves, becoming more of our true selves, right, is this idea of faith in action, right? We're living these values that we share together as a community, right? That is based in the Buddha's teachings, right? Although you may not give a Dharma talk with your words, you are giving a Dharma talk with your body, with your in-breath, with your out-breath, with your life. That is the living Dharma. We need that very much, just as we need the living Sangha. Right? It's not enough to just come to service to hear the Dharma messages and to I'm a Buddhist today. We're Buddhists every day. Right? We are disciples of the Buddha each and every day as we travel, wherever we travel, right, and journey. And how we inhabit our lives, how we show up in our lives, how we show up to others is the way we express and share the living Dharma. Right? I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all from weaker than myself. I will try to think pure, beautiful thoughts. Right? I will try to do pure, beautiful deeds. Right? Good thing in Jodo Shinshu, we try, yeah, we don't have to be perfect at it, yeah? But I think that's what's remarkable about Shinran. That he was so human, so real, so self-aware. Right? What a refreshing thing to be that self-aware. I don't know if I'm that self-aware, I can't be that self-aware, but but to kind of have that insight into one's heart and mind, and to be honest with oneself. And that's what this path of Shinshu is about, being honest with ourselves, being honest with each other, and holding each other to that same honesty that we hold ourselves to. And so, what are these living values? So, in addition to having a statement on the repeal of Roe v. Wade, Kory Quon also did a statement on the invasion of Ukraine and decrying war and violence, right? Our Kona Hongwanji on the Big Island of Hawaii also does a weekly feeding program where they feed hundreds of people within the Honokala community. A hot meal every week, every Friday. You know, Hawaii Vetsuman, during the height of the pandemic, sewed face masks, the VWA, for people and donated it to the nursing homes and other facilities among also the members, right? And I saw it on your website, right? You have a senior outreach program, right? So it's kind of similar to our Dana, right? So it's simple, really, to live our values. It's not very difficult at all. But the challenge is, right, is to live our values in a way that is authentic and that is life-giving, in a way that enables us to be better spiritual friends to each other, and to make our world just a little bit brighter, a little bit better each and every day. And we have the power within us to be able to transform the life of another. Right? And by being in community, though, we learn from each other how we can be better friends. That's the ultimate truth of our lives together as fellow travelers, as Ondogo and Dokyo. So we transform. Right? So the Sangha is not a place to hide in order to avoid our responsibilities. The Sangha is a place to practice for the transformation of and the healing of self and society. When you're strong, you can be there in order to help society. If your society is in trouble, if your family is broken, if your church is no longer capable of providing you with spiritual life, then you work to take refuge in the Sangha so that you can restore your strength, your understanding, your compassion, your confidence, and then in turn, you can use that strength, understanding, and compassion to rebuild your family and society, to renew your church, to restore communication and harmony. This can only be done as a community, not as an individual, but as Sangha together. Right, so from the purple book, I think you've seen that, the Tradition Show Guidebook, as people have encountered Shinran's teaching, they have come to realize the truth in his teaching and thereby have awakened to the great compassion of the Amida Buddha. All who truly awaken to and attain Shinjin, entrusting themselves wholeheartedly and completely to Amida Buddha's vow, realize that all life is equal and precious, and thus all Nembutsu followers are fellow practitioners. Right? Shinran talks about being neither monk nor lay. Also in his writings, he talks about how the black-robed priests or plainclothes lay people, each of us is equally embraced by great wisdom and compassion. So Sangha is an intentional, values-based community, a community of care, a community of good spiritual friends, a community of imperfect fellow travelers. And Sangha is faith in action. That's the living Nembutsu, the living Dharma, that we are living each and every day. And so, Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us, right? A Sangha is a community of friends practicing the Dharma together in order to bring about and to maintain awareness. The essence of a Sangha is awareness, understanding, acceptance, harmony, and love. It's as simple as that. But the most difficult thing to practice, right? When we have conflict, when we have disagreements, hard to see this, right? But these are the moments in which we need to practice these values the most, right? And holding ourselves and each other accountable to the Buddha Dharma, to that foundation of our lives. And so, Gomonchu Kojun Otani, right, says in his gratitude for the Jodo Shincho teachings, living with the Dharma as my guide softens my rigid heart and mind. Gratitude for the gift of life I received frees me from becoming lost in greed and anger, and allows me to share a warm smile and speak gentle words. Sharing the joy and sadness of others, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest. What a remarkable community that we are a part of. What a remarkable tradition that we are a part of. What a remarkable life that each of us is living together as good spiritual friends. And so, I want to share this video. I think is there sound to be able to? We'll try it. We'll see.
What is a beloved community? In its simplest form, it refers to a community where you are beloved, a place where you can be yourself, thrive, and help others around you grow as well. Auntie Puanani Burgess is a Kapuna, culture facilitator, storyteller, and the creator of a ceremony called Building a Beloved Community, which uses traditional oral Hawaiian storytelling to lay the foundations for beloved communities. For my senior project, I animated the story Boy with a Gift to share the story that everyone has a gift. Even if you feel like you don't have one, you do. I present Boy with a Gift. Enjoy.
Aloha, Michelle. You know, in the work that I do in building the beloved community, there's a process I use which involves asking people 3 stories to tell. First is to tell the story of all of your names. And when you tell that story, you tell the story of your people and your family. The second story is to tell the story of your community, where you come from, and how that makes you feel. The third is to tell the story of your gift. That often is the hardest story to tell because it requires you to dig deep and to really honor something that is inherent in you that oftentimes is not seen by others. I did this story with a group of 11th and 12th graders at Waianae High School, young women and young men. We sat in a circle and we went around the circle and each one of them told their 3 stories, their name, their community, and their gift. Until we got to this one young guy when it was his turn to tell his stories. He told the story of his name and his community, but when it came time to tell the story of his gift, he pushed back against me hard, and he looked at me straight in the eye and he said, "Miss, what kind of gift you think I get? I stay in this freaking special ed class. I get hard time read, and math hard for me. And why you make me shameful ask me the kind of question, what's your gift? If I had gift, you think I'd be here?" So he just shut up and he shut down. And I felt shame because I made him shame. So I shut up and I shut down. Fortunately, in every community, there are always places where you can see everybody you like see and everybody you know like see. And so in Waianae, one of those places for us is Tamora Store. So I'm in Tamora Store and I'm pushing my wagon down the aisle and I see that boy and his back is faced toward me and all I can think of is run. And so I start to back up and I'm trying not to hit anything on the side and trying not to make any noise because I don't want him to turn around. I don't want him to yell at me and I don't want him to make me shame again. So I'm backing up and then he turns around and he looks at me straight in the eye and he says, "Auntie, I've been thinking about you, you know. I've been thinking what my gift that Auntie told me I can give, you know, so I better find him. So Auntie, I've been thinking about it, you know." So I looked up at him and I said, "So brother, what is your gift?" He said, "You know, I get hard time read and math hard for me. But Auntie, when I go in the ocean, I can call the fish, you know. And a fish, he come every time. Every time I can put food on my family table. And sometimes when I stay in the water, the shark, he come, you know, and he look at me. And I look at him and I tell him, "Uncle, I'm not going to take plenty fish. I'm going to take 1, 2 fish just for my family. All the rest, I leave for you." So the shark, he tell me, "Are you cool, brother?" And I tell him, "Uncle, you cool." And so the shark, he go his way, you know, Auntie, and I go my way. I look at that boy and I think, you are invisible to them. They don't know the quality of your mind and your heart and your knowledge, your ike. And I think to myself, how do we make room for the gifts of all of our children? And how do we make these schools really be attentive to and begin to see and teach to the gifts of our children? But it begins with each one of us thinking about and knowing that we have gifts and having the patience to wait for the answer. So my question to you is, what do you bring to your community? What is your gift? Mahalo.
So, Auntie Kona Burgess, I know her personally and we've been friends for many years. She's a wonderful practitioner of actually Zen Buddhism, actually, but then also Blayne Hawaiian culture and values. And I think the story reminds us of the power of community and reminds us of what each of us brings to community. So, what is our gifts? Right? What do we bring to community? So, as we create Sangha together, right? What does Sangha mean to you? How do you personally take refuge in Sangha? What are the values of a Dharma-centered community? Describe the qualities of an unhealthy Sangha. In what ways can we nurture a healthy Sangha? What gifts do we bring to the practice of Sangha? What aspects of Sangha have you noticed to be harmful? How can we make Sangha a refuge for people? And can you share how Sangha has been healing for you? Right, so I want us to kind of take some time in some small groups to kind of maybe think about these questions and discuss among yourselves, because I think everyone, right, as we are living and struggling together, we all have wisdom, we all have knowledge, right, our mind, our heart, our knowledge, right, that we bring to Sangha, to bring to this Sangha, right? So I want you to take some time to kind of talk about that and think about these questions. You don't have to go through all of them, but just as perhaps prompts and starting points of discussion. So which group wants to share, just maybe share one thing that struck you, or one, in your conversation that was the most interesting or the most insightful from your conversation together. Who would like to go first? Okay, this group then. So.
Okay, we mostly addressed two of the questions on the list. First one is, okay, we started off with talking about what makes an unhealthy Sangha. One thing we were recalling was when we've had differences of opinion. We can recall board meetings that went on to 11 o'clock, midnight. Mostly discussions about money, for some reason. That was my observation. Some people have left the Sangha, and we heard this kind of after the fact. To me, in my opinion, this is my opinion, some of the reasons they left were because of misperceptions about what other people in the Sangha said or did. Also, when I first came, I saw a little bit of generational differences. Sometimes the old generation would criticize what the younger generation would do, and so I think that caused some people to leave. I'm just talking about one or two cases in general. Then we addressed the question of how we can nurture a healthy Sangha, and I think we all agreed that in recent years we've been a lot more welcoming than in the past. And we actually made our mission statement, which is on the book there, to be a warm and friendly temple. So I think we've done a good job. We all thought we've done a good job with that in recent years. And then we've done some outreach to the community as well. We've done some of the things that we were talking about. We're still doing our Dharma delivery program to our senior members. And we did do some outreach with phone calling at the height of the pandemic. And then we never belong our federal members to the grant. Yes. Yes. The grant that we received enabled us to do a lot of this Dharma delivery program. It was a community grant. And then one thing we all agreed on was a real Venice thing was we always have food and drinks at every single event. So we never without food here. And that really brings people together and really provides a means to socialize. So that's what we think of it.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
You do well.
Yeah.
Please look for that.
Next group.
Yeah.
I think we didn't necessarily go down the list with the questions, but more talking about what people thought of going to church. And so we discussed that. I think my dad brought up, especially with culture, right? They mostly come from a Caucasian-based community, and so coming to church was one of the main places that they received not just being immersed in the culture, but also the guidance of how to deal with being Japanese in a Caucasian, Japanese American in a Caucasian culture, Caucasian community. And so, he felt that he was able to get not just wisdom, but just kind of guidance and, also be there with fellowship, right, and warmth of the community to help him then go back, not to the cold world, but, to, one where he doesn't feel as seen or as sane. So I thought that was really compelling for me, because I think unknowingly, that's kind of what I got as well. I think we also talked about, Kory Quon, I think, mentioned having the church receive more, being in the community and having community outreach, and like being in the news and being a place where they can have the exposure with voting and things like that. And so it kind of enables the church to be seen, so that way they are kind of adopted, right? People are more drawn to it and have more reason to be there, whether it's community, whether it's faith, like that. We didn't go through the negatives yet.
Well, we also talked about, what is it to nurture a good sangha? And we all agree that there has to be a feeling of safety and security. And we all talked about, we talked about the Venice Church because we love it here. And all of you have always made us feel so warm and very safe to be who we want to be.
We have you too. And well fed.
Great, thank you. So next group, besides who's driving to
Yeah, she just did it.
Yeah, we'll do a ditto too. And we're a warm and friendly temple. I have an underline there.
And you feel that Quinn was handsome or something? Or
Yeah. That's in my physique. Yeah, that's the gifts that I bring to the temple.
Lots of food and drink.
Yeah.
Quinn brings a lot of alcohol to the table.
Yeah.
That is your gift.
Yes. Not my physique.
She's drinking right now.
Thomas is out there. Tommy back there.
Yeah, Tommy's hiding.
President back there, he's isolating himself.
No, I'm listening.
He's soaking everything in.
Taking notes, yeah, about what to do, yes.
So Tommy's actually the longest standing member of the temple. in this room.
Technically,
Wow.
Baby? Yes, since a baby.
Oh.
Wow.
Yay.
So,
So yeah, thank you all for sharing. Right, so there is such richness, right, in everyone's experience of sangha, right, and how we experience community together, right, and what we bring to community, right, and so like Auntie Kalani raised the question, what do you bring to your community? What are your gifts, right? We show up every day. We show up every day in our lives, in our work, in our temple, and so we also have to think about that, right? What do we bring? How do we show up, right? How do we create healthy sanghas? How do we create a healthy community, right? For ourselves and for others, and that's the whole of the path, right? It is our spiritual friendships that we participate in, that we're active participants in every day. So thank you very much. And so we have a few minutes, I think we can take some questions if you'd like. We can if you have any questions.
Is that on video available?
It is, you can, on YouTube. Yeah, you can, on YouTube, look for Hongwanji Burgess. Quanani. Yeah, Hongwanji Burgess, Burgess, I think. Yeah, and then building a beloved community. Yeah. And so I'm glad you're able to kind of make out, despite all the pidgin English, from Okay. So, right, but you can, but the story comes through, right? Like that sense of like everyone, right? I know that you have a small community here too. I'm sure you have places where you see everybody you want to see, everyone you don't want to see. Yeah, like when you go shopping. So
Look, see.
Venice's biggest project is the Mochi-Tsuki we have every year. And everybody comes, old and young, and we've done it for over 50 years and raised about $10,000 into this. That's great, we have everybody working.
You have to send them some.
Right, and that's the beauty, right, of Jodo-Shinto temples, right? Like we are actually learning the Dharma when we're making mochi together. Right? We're learning the Dharma and we're practicing the Dharma when we make chicken teriyaki together, right? Like and when we have some drinks after all of that. Yeah.
You mentioned during the service that the Project Dana is an interfaith project. So how does that coordinate with Christian and
so Project Dana was founded in Ili Hongwanji, but then there's actually different sites across the state of Hawaii, right? So at other Buddhist temples, Hongwanji temples, but also other non-Hongwanji temples, but also at some Christian churches. I think there's like a Jewish community group as well that participates, and some other maybe more secular groups as well to participate in this project. Of caring for those in our community, right, who are frail, elderly, and disabled. So, and so the volunteers are all from wherever in the community as well, mostly from our temples, and from our different groups, right, that serve our members, but also others in the community as well. So, so it's a true interfaith organization and a project. So the main Project Dana headquarters office is actually on Oahu, kind of still associated with Ili Hongwanji, but there's sites at Kona Hongwanji where I'm from. We have a Project Dana as well, but then we don't do the home visits and the other types of things. But what we do is a monthly senior activity day. So we have games, play hanafuda, play mahjong, and do some crafts, and we have lunch together for the seniors in our communities.
I don't know much about Kona Hongwanji Buddhist Temple. I've only been to the Kona side once, so I don't know much about it. Is it large sangha or small?
Yeah, so Kona Hongwanji was founded in 1897, so we celebrated our 125th anniversary last year. And then I know this from Kona, and his brother actually is a member of my temple. So Kona, we have about maybe 200 families, roughly, at least on paper at least. So yeah. Everyone knows that, on paper at least. We do. So we also run a preschool that we operate on premise, and then also we have Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. We also rent our social hall out to the Boys and Girls Club local to do an after-school program for the local high school and middle school and elementary school kids in our community. So we have an active BWA and things like that. So a very small Dharma school and junior YBA too. We don't have ourselves right now.
Are there other non-Jodo Shinshu temples in the Kona area?
Yeah, so there's 3 main Buddhist temples in Kona. So there's the Hongwanji, and there's also a Soto Zen temple, Kona Daifukuji, and then there's a Shenran temple, Kona Koyasan Daishinji. So so there's 3 of us. Yeah, but on the Big Island itself, though, there are 13 Hongwanji temples on the Big Island itself. So within Hawaii, Kyonan, so across the state of Hawaii, we have about 35 temples. So across all the islands. So.
My mother-in-law actually lived there for a while. It rains there a lot. But I have family in Maui and one of my cousins lost. very, very difficult. I've been to the Lahaina. Yeah, so sad.
Any other questions? Great, thank you so much again for, yeah.